All right, everybody, welcome. We are about to go live on X, but we are live on Facebook right now, and my understanding is we're working to be live on YouTube very shortly. So let me go ahead and get the space cranked up, and we'll get going. All right, we are now got the space going on X. Nick, I'm not hearing the music. Yeah, good to go. All right, thank you. Got the outstanding producer, Nick, being joined by my co-host, Dr. A, as we speak. All right, Dr. A, you've got a co-host invite. How do you hear me, ma'am? Got me? Sometimes you go through about a 7 or 8 second transition on X as you move up to the stage, but I am showing her here.
You're a bad influence.
Yes, I'm clearly a bad influence, but we'll talk more about that later. In the best kind of way. Like I said, I'm like Batman. So anyway, I'll keep that in between us until you feel the need to talk about it. But yeah, this is a really good day. I can tell you I had another good weekend. My opponent's trying to slam me again. Website traffic is skyrocketing. Donations are coming in. Keep it up, little buddy. I really appreciate it. You're having not the effect that you want. You know, I'm reminded of Inigo Montoya. You know, I don't think you know what that word means. So anyway. Southern, welcome, welcome. And I'm waiting for my baseball update. Oh, you know what's funny is sometimes the world is really good when you can think about 6-year-olds playing baseball, and then you think about our Super Bowl show and not so much. Welcome, Southern. How do you do this, not this past weekend, or I guess this weekend or the one before that? I'm not hearing her. So... All right, everyone. We will talk today over a few things. We're going to talk about our lovely Democratic Party attempting to hamstring ICE. We're talking about the national division on display. And then a little bit of California idiocracy with our special guest, Dr. A. Talk a little bit about Skynet, which is actually coming to the forefront. And then we'll cover Maha and the Tyson Super Bowl ad, which I did not see. So, Southern, can you hear me now? Okay. So, yep. Looks like my co-hosts need to drop and come back. If you guys are hearing me, can you please give me a thumbs up? Okay. I see the heart there, Dr. A, but I can't hear you. Go ahead and unmic. All right. Southern, I'm going to drop you out of co-host. And, all right. Dr. A, I'm going to remove you as well and bring you back up. Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your algorithm there. I should have had you drop. My bad. Algorithms. Kind of ruling the world these days. All right. Southern's just showing you as listener. I'll get you up here eventually. Don't you love all these programming glitches off to a running start? Hey, while you're there, if you're following on Facebook or on X Live or hopefully today on YouTube, and you have, we are live on YouTube, and you want to comment on the show, then definitely put it in there and bear with me as Nick will see what you've got, and then he'll shoot it onto a chat window so that I can look at it as well. All right, Southern, I see you.
Testing.
All right, got you loud and clear, Dr. A. What about you, Southern? I'm not even showing
Southern
you.
or Larry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Oh,
Yeah.
sweet.
Yes, I can hear you both. How me?
I can hear you.
All right, wonderful. Welcome, Raging Rigo. We'll get you up front or up to the top. How was your weekend? How did my favorite baseball player do?
He got his first home run for a game that didn't count.
Well, hey, no, first home run. That's awesome. That's incredible. So we're hitting for power now. Now, have you started tracking?
Mommy, you're not supposed to tell him his effort didn't count. Come on now.
Are you tracking his OPS?
What?
Look, we need
Listen,
to know all
I
of
have a
his
little
metrics.
app.
Yeah.
I have a little app that tells me all that.
Okay. Awesome. I would say put it up, but I don't want his name out there because of all the nuts in the world. So I totally get it. So, all right. Did either of you two watch the Super Bowl yesterday?
Hell to the no.
I did watch the game. I did not watch their halftime show.
Now, did you dial into the TPUSA halftime show?
I
Heck
did.
yeah.
All right. Awesome. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Dr. A, can I get you to put the agenda up, please, ma'am?
Will do. Am I adding topic for Southern?
You guys chat about that offline. But yeah, I mean, Southern, I'll be honest with you. I started briefly down the Epstein rabbit hole, but I can't go there. It's just too dark for me. I've got a million other things. However, I do think the audience needs to know, what's being uncovered. I'm honestly starting to feel like we're never going to see any justice out of Washington, D.C. And so, we need to just treat Washington, D.C. as this giant hive of tracker jackers that are only going to sting us and hurt us. So if we leave them alone, maybe they'll leave us alone as well. I saw people talking about marching on the White House. I cannot tell you what a bad idea that would be. I mean, never protest in a blue city is a general rule of thumb, and certainly not anywhere where you're going to have justice denied. And anywhere you have a blue city with blue justices or a blue DA, there is no such thing as justice. You need to know it's the exact same thing as being in Russia during the communist days or, Nazi Germany. It is the exact same thing. Very, very little difference. So, all right, we are at 10:54. Let me go over the rules of the show. This started on X as just talking, and now we're moving to live stream, trying to grow, trying to get the message out. Now, full disclosure, I'm running for office, so some of the things I'm going to say, especially in the rant, are definitely targeted for that. But I'm very happy to have my two great co-hosts on with me. Southern has a space every night. Dr. A participates in a whole host of spaces. I'm not sure if you're hosting one right now, but it's what? Everything and nothing? Is that your space at night, Southern?
Yes, sir.
All right, and that's 10 p.m. Eastern, correct?
Correct.
All right. And Dr. A, do you have a regular show you're on? I mean, I know you obviously co-host this one, but the Punch Bowl or anything like that?
Punch Bowl is what I frequent regularly. I mod for occasionally, and Rigo's Triple R Space, which he's renaming, I occasionally host for.
Okay.
And otherwise, I make my way around X. I've never been tied down to lead a show on my own.
Okay, awesome. All right, so 10:55. The rules: don't talk over each other, no profanity. My mom listens; she likes it kept clean, and so do I. Honestly, let's not cheapen our discourse to the Democrat levels. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the Bad Bunny lyrics, but good Lord. All right, and then the other thing is if you talk too long, we'll ding you. We haven't had to do that in a really long time, though. All right, the question of the day, and we always start with that, is what was the best Super Bowl commercial ever? I got to be honest with you, and I think it's because the war had such a huge impact on my life. The Budweiser Clydesdales kneeling to the Twin Towers, to me, that's still my favorite. And then there was another humorous one where this, I think it was a golden retriever, was chasing something down a sidewalk, and it's basically trying to be super dog, and it leaps over something, and then I think it crashed right into the side of a car that just cracked me up. I mean, obviously I love dogs. I would never want anything to happen to them, but it was a funny commercial. What about you, Dr. A? What was your favorite? What's your favorite commercial ever?
So funny that you ask that because I don't keep those things in my head. I will say that the current one where the Clydesdale rescues the small chick in the rainstorm and it turns out to later learn how to fly becomes an eagle.
Yes.
An American eagle. I loved that. I really did. I just don't remember previous ads, but I'm actually going to talk about one in my Maha update.
Outstanding. And what about you, Southern?
The one you listed is my favorite, and it's really weird because I think all my favorites have actually been from Budweiser, and I don't like them as a company.
No, I totally agree. Their beer is terrible, and obviously, given their marketing issue that they had a while ago, I'm out on them as a brand as well. But that was a solid advertisement, and they have a history of really good ones as well. I mean, didn't, the frogs, Budweiser, wasn't it? I mean, I can't remember. Maybe I'm getting that wrong.
Wiser.
Exactly. So, again, they have definitely made a mark on, I would say, establishing the commercials as one of the main reasons people actually watch the game. This is honestly the first Super Bowl in recent memory that I didn't even watch a single play. I'm sorry, but I am so busy trying to win this seat. I received some good news and some bad news. Be careful what you wish for. The good news is my opponent is under 50%, which means I'm most likely heading to a runoff. And, I am all about the fight. Fight. I will never give up. I'll never stop. I'm like the Terminator in that regard. But, you kind of hope for some finality. So I'm hoping that my outstanding marketing team, who's also the producer of this show, will get me over the 50% margin so that I can actually do some good for the people in the state of Texas. All right. Does anybody else have a one they'd like to talk about or a favorite commercial? All right. Hey, again, dating myself, was the Where's the Beef? Did that come? Was that a Super Bowl commercial? The Wendy's commercial? I don't know. Again, I should have looked up.
I don't remember.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have a commercial that you really like, go ahead and post it in the pill, and we'll go from there. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started a little bit early. It is 11:58 Eastern Standard. This is the Reckoning 3 February 2026, show number 313, and 1 hour of unfiltered political truth starts now. Now, I often talk about courage, and I'm pleased that many people in our country are becoming more courageous and taking a stand. 35 million of our fellow Americans chose not to consume the filth that the NFL put on the field during the halftime show yesterday. One of the things that I like to do personally is to dig into origins of things, like where does spilling salt come from, as a bad thing? Why is it unlucky to walk under a ladder? And another thing is, why does a white feather indicate cowardice? Now, in the late 1700s, the English were addicted to fighting roosters, and it came to be common knowledge amongst them that roosters with white tail feathers would often quit early. So white feathers in English society became associated with cowardice or weakness. Now, taking advantage of that was a British marketing firm during World War I. They handed white feathers to British women and asked them to give them to men who were not in uniform, trying to convince them to join the military. Now, this was actually very effective, and recruiting numbers increased dramatically. There have been 3 movies based on the book, The Four Feathers by A.E.W. Mason. I've seen 2 of them, the 1978 version and the 2002 version, I believe with Heath Ledger. The 1978 version, I'm going to say, is actually the best one in my opinion, as no man wants to look like a coward. Well, one does. Now, my opponent refused to put on his country's uniform when the Twin Towers fell. He was at a military school, Texas A&M, and did not join the Corps of Cadets. All right, he did not join during the entire global war on terror, despite being an able-bodied man. Now, let's forgive him that. All right, there are a lot of people that don't join. So let's look at his actions as a legislator. He cowardly deserted the Republican caucus and joined the Democrats. Gene Wu, okay, who is an overt racist. If you have not seen his post on X this past weekend, you definitely need to look at it. It's in my timeline. But he joined an overt racist, Gene Wu, to select a Speaker of the House against the Republican caucus. Not only that, Republicans were promised that there would be no Democratic chairs. So rather than allow debate on that so that the Republicans that were in the majority could ban Democratic chairs, he called the question for only the 9th time in Texas history. Parliamentary trick, blah, blah, blah. But he cowardly cut off debate. That's going to become a trend with him. All right, and now he is cowardly ducking a debate with me, a man he knows is better than him in all aspects, including a sense of humor and obviously humility. So I am personally telling you, Jared, that you are a coward. And I will hand you this white feather when I see you. All right. I will be at the Prestonwood Church Candidate Forum tomorrow evening, and I hope to see you there, where I will hand deliver this to you and then shellac you in the debate. Have a nice day, sir. All right. Let's kind of talk about...
Oh, sure. I'd love to step into that, too. Oh, my
Yes,
gosh,
ma'am.
Larry. Shellac you.
I will, actually. I mean, he cannot stand on his record, so all he is doing is launching a series of blistering attacks on me, based off the lies from January the 6th. And I got to be honest with you, keep it up. I need you. I want to do a little bit more on the marketing front, so I need a little bit more money. So I need you to keep up your attacks, because every time you do it, you drive traffic to my website. At one point, it was up over 3,000%. So thank you, sir. Keep it up. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I do know who your campaign manager is, and he works for the Sands Casino and the Chinese Communist Party. So, and he got shellacked in the primary for the special election that we just had. So, yeah, I'm really, really happy with your campaign manager. So please keep him online. And you are doing a great job, sir. You need to attack more. All right. So, Dr. A, what did you want to add to this?
Oh, no, I was just laughing at you saying I wouldn't show up if you promised you were going to shellac me, too.
Well, and again, okay, here's the funny thing. You know what he's going to say? He is physically threatening me. Wah, wah, wah. I mean, I can hear it now. He literally, in his Alt-X profile.
Physically threatened if you have no brains.
Well, on his Alt-X profile, which is Alamo Republican, I had a post like, hey, target sighted, meaning I wanted to take his office from him. And I've got a picture of his door thing outside of his office. And he said, oh, I'm really worried about my personal safety. Again, I'm telling you, I can't stand it. Throughout history, there are things that we as a society just hate. And cowardice amongst men is one of the worst. All right, women that don't take care of their children or men that don't take care of their children is one of the worst. Again, it's just, all right, why can't he talk about the good things he's done? Oh, because he can't. Anyway, let's get off of my race, because I don't want the show to be just about that, although I would like that. But, I realize other people want to hear different things. So let's talk about our National Democratic Party. Now, they are currently attempting to hamstring ICE. All right. Now, I just want to start this before my opponent says he's anti-ICE by saying that I like my city and my state like I like my tea, with plenty of ice. Now, requiring judicial warrants is what they want before agents can make arrests in homes or private spaces. These are not American citizens. They have violated the law coming across. They are not entitled to due process. So, no, the answer is flat out no. That should be stopped immediately. But these are things that the Democrats are trying to put into the Homeland Security funding bill to stop ICE from actually doing their job. Now, they also want to mandate body-worn cameras for all law enforcement actions. Got to be honest with you. I am actually really, really for this one. Why? Because then we can use the facial recognition technology that exists from airports and other places, and we can track and catalog these various protesters so that we can arrest them and get to their funding sources. So I am all in favor of mandating body-worn cameras, because I believe that the vast, vast majority of our law enforcement agents are doing the right thing. All right. Now, they also, because they know this is what it would be used for, are trying to ban ICE and Customs and Border Patrol from using facial recognition software and other biometric technologies. All right. Isn't it interesting, though, that the shoe's on the other foot here? The Democrats are the ones that want to surveil us. Now, they want to also prohibit agents from wearing masks or face coverings. I got to be honest. I have mixed emotions about this. I wished I lived in a society that didn't require them to do this. But I am going to err on safety for the officer and his family, because the left will dox people, and I know this personally, because the left will threaten their children and their wives or their husbands, as the case may be. No, they ought to be able to completely mask themselves and hide their identity. As far as I'm concerned, they should only have to provide their badge number or their last name in a court of law so that the officers of the court know who to cross-examine. Other than that, I want my ICE officers to be safe. Now, they say ending racial profiling in enforcement activities. I'm good with that, okay? I really, really am. All right, who's racially profiling? My understanding is they're going down a list and they're saying these guys are bad guys based off the crimes they've committed in the United States or based off of who they are and who they identified themselves to be off of databases that we got from other countries. So again, what they're trying to label as racial profiling, I'm viewing as proper targeting of criminals. Again, I guess it's just all common sense to me, and that's something the left purely, absolutely has deserted a long time ago. Now, they want clear identification of DHS officers. Don't have a problem with a badge number. I don't, really. I mean, but I do have a problem with, like I said, anything that would personally mark them to the left and subject them or their family to doxing. All right, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Democrats are the enemy of the American people. Now, why are they doing this? All right, they're doing this to protect their base. And their base is all of these illegal aliens and criminals that they want to give the ability to vote so that they can compromise our next elections. We see it all the time. That's why the Trump the Trump presidency is trying so hard to get the SAVE Act through Congress. And that's what's tied to this right now. The Republicans are pushing to attach the SAVE Act priorities into the DHS funding bill. Now, SAVE Act is, I think I've said safe a few times, but it's SAVE, Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. All right, and that would simply require proof of citizenship to register to vote and presentation of ID to cast ballots. We have that here in Texas. That is a wonderful thing. Now, there are some other measures we can take, but that's a different discussion at a different time to really, truly safeguard our elections. Now, the SAVE Act was passed by the House in April and is stalled where? In the Senate, where everything goes to die. And, all right, it right now is, requiring, as I said, either a passport or a birth certificate when you register to vote, all right? And it would also, and this is the real glitch for states like California and New York, require states to remove non-citizens from their existing voter rolls. Now, what do the Democrats say whenever they don't like anything? What is it? Any guesses, Dr. A? What are they saying about it?
Racist?
Yes, ma'am. You win 100 points, and you're next on Double Jeopardy. All right, so you had your hand up. What is it, ma'am? And then I'll keep going, and we'll talk about the racism of the SAVE Act.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love pointing out to people who are trying to defend the whole stop ICE, ICE out, F ICE, all the things they're saying, that they are actually trying to protect pedophilia, rape, and, other crimes in the U.S. because that is who ICE is going after.
You're absolutely right. I mean, why they are supporting criminals remaining in our country, that's because they can vote. That's all they care about is the fact that they can vote. Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called the SAVE Act Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. Jim Crow 2.0. Now, it's funny. I went to buy, my favorite bourbon over the weekend, and I had to show an ID there. Now, what about when you fly an airplane? Do you have to show an ID? I think you do. What about when you go into, pick up a prescription from a doctor? Do you have to show an ID? Pretty sure you do. How about to get your pet vaccinated? Yeah, got to do that too. So I don't know that this is going to work, and here's why. All right. 82% of Hispanic voters and 76% of black voters support a photo ID requirement. 85% of white voters and 77% of Asian American voters support requiring government-issued photo ID to vote. Now, again, you guys know I hate this balkanization. I don't care what color the skin casing is on your body, but I did want to show that this is broadly supported by Americans of all hues. All right, so photo ID is more popular among Republicans, shocker, at 95%, but even Democrats want this to come about at a 71% clip. I can't not fathom that this is not going to get passed. And I'm hopeful because of the overall popularity of it, the fact that the White House is pushing it. All right. But again, I've got to ask the question, why won't John Thune speak up and support something as broadly supported as this? Okay, and it is because the uniparty, I do not think, wants to have real elections, and he is a uniparty hack, and voter ID is a step closer to having them. So how would this actually come about if we did get it through? All right, one, given the filibuster, the Democrats will never let this through. So what will happen is it will be introduced, all right, and then a motion will be brought forward to suspend the rules on this so that they can violate the 60 rule debate and move forward. But I think this is critical for both President Trump, the Republican Party, and the United States of America. If we do not have legitimate elections, do we even have a country? Okay, I've already been to jail once for this, protesting a stolen election. All right, I have no intention to ever go there again, although I am certain that when the Democrats win, they have a plan to put us all in jail. And if you think they don't, you're smoking some good stuff out of California or Oklahoma in our case. All right, so Dr. A, overall, do you think we're going to get the SAVE Act over the fence?
I pray to God we are, because I very much agree with the Truth Social post that Trump put out, that it's either that or we lose this country, period.
I absolutely agree with you. What about you, Southern? What do you think?
It needs to pass. I don't know if we will actually do it because, let's be honest, I see the Senate passing it, but the House is, and I'm going to say this, so corrupt right now that they can't get their head straight for 10 seconds.
Well, I mean, again, the House got this through. I saw Chip Roy over the weekend said that, the American people are getting so frustrated with all of us that they just need to vote us all out. And I got to be honest with you. I mean, I've posed this question several times. What have they done? Other than the big, beautiful bill, what have they actually done? Are they anything more than 435 leeches on the American body politic? So it's not good. All right. One of the things that, I'm still amazed at is the fact that they could actually put that show on last night. Now, that being said, before you all pile on me, before you say, well, you should have watched it before you're going to talk about it. No, I don't need to watch filth. I don't. I knew they were going to do what they need to do. I don't need to, if I see dog feces laying in the yard, do I need to get close to it to smell it to know that it's going to smell bad? No. All right. I knew that the halftime show last night was going to be filth, so I chose not to subject myself to it. It's just, why would I do that? I mean, there are a million other things that I could do. All right. So, the Super Bowl is always the biggest television event of the year, and even with two teams that weren't very popular, it was still, I believe, the biggest event of the year. And for whatever reason, the NFL decided to put this dude named Bad Bunny into the halftime show, and he did his entire set in Spanish. I mean, honestly, I would say, why did he do that? Why did the NFL approve that? Did they not think that maybe we should speak English in the United States of America? But given the things that I saw that he was saying, I'm glad it was in Spanish so that American children were not subject to that filth. And how is it that if he said that in English, I'm pretty sure the network would be fine for what he said, but he's somehow getting away with it because he said it in Spanish. I'm just saying, seems to me enforcement might be a little lacking there.
Violations, Larry.
What?
Maybe we should file network violations.
Yes, ma'am. All right, go ahead, Southern.
He only sings in Spanish, just so you know, and those weren't even his most popular songs. He's actually very well known in the Hispanic community, and that's why they chose him. And from what I've heard from other people that have actually seen him live, because he does a lot of pop-up concerts in Puerto Rico, that's not how he normally performs. So I think last night was all about political, and it wasn't about the actual artist.
I'm going to yield to your good judgment on that because, like I said, I don't need to watch a guy in a dress. I just don't. All right.
He didn't wear a
So,
dress. He had threatened he was going to wear one.
yes.
He actually did not wear one.
Well, I heard, but he has worn a dress on stage numerous times, correct?
In concert, yes.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so can anyone possibly explain why the NFL would do this? This literally makes no financial sense to me. You know, the only thing I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they believe they are so popular that people can't just choose not to watch their product. I know many people have dialed out of the NBA, and I'm telling you right now, I was a hardcore NBA P1 during the magical years of the NBA, literally and figuratively, of Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, followed by the greatest single, most dominant athlete I have ever seen, Michael Jordan. And then, of course, you know, the good Dallas teams kept me interested in the league pretty much until 2011. What about you, Southern?
My understanding of it is it was to pander to the Hispanic community. They've gotten a rise in popularity with them, and they wanted to do something, quote unquote, special for them. And I think it just backfired last night.
Yeah, but I mean, there are a lot of really good Latin artists that are out there. And before you say it, because I listen to podcasts a lot. I don't listen to the radio that much. So, you know, I mean, I'm just going to default to Shakira because I know she's really good. So other than that, you know, who knows? All right. Now, the alternative Turning Point USA show had 35 million views. Now, I was told you guys did watch that. How was that, Dr. A?
So, I grew up listening to Latin artists. Trini Lopez was one of my parents' favorite. We listened to it every night when they got that was like records, guys. And then, you know, tapes and all that. But yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was really good. I mean, there was a transition in the show that I think some people struggled with understanding what the purpose of it was. But it was great. I really, really enjoyed Kid Rock, and the closing was really special.
You know, I've heard that. I'm going to go back and watch it later today when I'm, you know, doing some work at home. I'll put it on because I do want to see, you know, what they said. And when I say watch it, I do mean the Turning Point USA version of the show. All right. Now, what did our beloved president have to say about it? All right. He said, and I quote, the Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible. One of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Tell us how you really feel there, boss. All right. Nobody understands a word this guy's saying. The dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching throughout the USA and all over the world. This show is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, ... He said there is nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show, and watch, it will get great reviews from the fake news media because they haven't got a clue of what's going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace its ridiculous new kickoff rule. I'm with him on that one. And then he said, of course, make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. So here's a couple of thoughts. I really hate what is happening to football. Football, in my mind, was the last of the great common denominators that used to be sports. You could talk to, and I did it just to check it routinely, any man in Dallas about the Cowboys. On a Monday morning, I could be standing in line at a Starbucks, and I could say to the guy who probably is as different for me as it could be, did you watch that game last night? And we could both commiserate about how our team used to be great, but has been terrible for so long. So, you know, it bothers me a lot that another bond holding American society together is breaking apart. All right. A nation is its culture. That's why the left has attacked our education. That's why the left routinely attacks our culture. All right. We have got to get back to, and I believe we are slowly getting back to a culture that glorifies sacrifice, duty, and responsibility over depravity and division. Now, why do I say that? If you look at Hollywood and the nonsense, the woke nonsense that they're putting out, it is just not hitting at the box office. All right, anything that's woke is not hitting. The entire Phase 4 of the MCU, which I think is what the latest one is, just doesn't resonate anymore. It's unwatchable. But what is very watchable is the stuff that Angel Studios is putting out. All right, and so we are seeing a lot of good, wholesome movies coming out of small studios like Angel Studios. And why do I bring them up? In the same way that we have had to shift to X to actually get to the truth on the news, all right, we're going to have to shift away from these large studios and from these large events and turn to streaming services. 35 million Americans watched the Turning Point USA show yesterday. 25 of those online. I mean, I'm real curious, and I'm going to ask Dr. A and Southern, do you guys even own a TV streaming service at all? Because, I'm sorry, a TV service at all where you pick up local channels or, the old cable bundling package that we used to have? Because I don't. I just stream the things that I want. All right, so Dr. A, do you even own TV anymore?
No, not a general service like you're talking about. We have a physical thing on the wall that's called a TV, but we only stream to it what we choose to put on it.
I'm with you. What about you, Southern?
Same. I don't have traditional TV. I only stream.
I think that's actually something that's becoming more and more normal. And what I suspect will happen is soon, all of that's going to go the way of the dinosaur. Something else that I got to tell you I'm looking forward to is I'm going to get clobbered again. Why? Because the New York Times decided to come to one of my campaign rallies from Thursday night. So, and then they sent somebody out on Saturday morning to actually take a professional photograph of me. So we were speculating what we think the headlines are going to be. And so I'll keep those to myself, but I've shared them already with my two co-hosts. And next week, after the article's out, we'll see if I was potentially right there. Now, anybody else? I'm not seeing a lot of people up on the stage. Nick, do we have anybody in the chat saying anything? All right, quiet morning. That's probably because, I'm not following Nick's advice and have a host. I will hopefully rectify that over the next few weeks. Always do what your producer tells you to do. All right. Things I'm learning. You have to learn how to campaign. So if anybody's interested in that, make sure I jot some notes down and actually get it over to you, because it is not easy. And, there's a lot of things that go into it you might not think of. It's not just as simple as Mr. Smith goes to Washington. All right, let's talk about Dr. A's favorite state. I know she was routinely thinking about, being a part of the Newsom campaign team, but she's not. And so, Dr. A, we're going to talk about your beloved state of California. Now, why would you in Texas cover California, and can't we just write them off?
I'm entertained by the thought of you talking about my state.
All right, so a couple of things about California. All right, if you haven't been there, you're truly missing out. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. I'm going to tell you right now, it is an absolutely gorgeous state. And it has a lot of great conservative Americans that are trapped behind communist lines with their government. So let's talk about California Idiocracy. And if you have never seen the movie Idiocracy, you simply must watch that, because Californians get to live it every single day. All right. I don't think, after looking at what's going on in California right now, that there is absolutely any ceiling for the amount of damage that their politicians can do without their constituents actually objecting. Thanks to the state's governance, the cost of living there is well above the national average and increasing rapidly, even though there's no reason why that should actually be the case economically. It's the government that's doing that to you, Californians that are out there. Now, the latest legislative caper that they're planning is a wealth tax on the state's 200 billionaires that is so onerous that, if approved, will drive business and their owners out of the state altogether. How many more do you have to lose? Now, let me tell you, as a man that is seeking to represent my state in the Texas legislature, I hope you pass it, because those states routinely come to Texas, or those companies routinely come to Texas or California. So please pass your tax, okay? Even though it's going to hurt you and your citizens economically, go ahead and do it. Now, California, for those that don't know, is the most one-party state in the United States. Every statewide election has gone to a Democrat in the last decade, and the Democrats have a supermajority in the legislature, meaning there's really no meaningful Republican opposition. Whatever the Democrats want, they get. So when this thing collapses, and it will, they are entirely to blame. But what will they be successful in doing? It's President Trump's fault. It's MAGA's fault. Because that's what they always do. They have to have a boogeyman. Now, occasionally, if you go through the history of communism and socialism, you'll see that whenever it fails, as it must, they never blame the ism. They always say, well, the people implementing it just didn't do it good enough. Oh, no. Gavin Newsom is clearly implementing socialism exactly the way it's intended in California. All right. And so that you don't get to have that excuse. Now, California, all right, is purely progressive. All right. The unions representing the government effectively run the legislature, and as a result, pay, benefits, and pension for these workers are actually straining the state budget now, and that just simply should not be happening. For example, something that they just did, all right, they decriminalized theft as long as the thieves take less than $950 worth of merchandise. All right, that reduces it to, they reduced it to a misdemeanor, making it effectively legal because California DAs, Soros DAs, don't like to be bothered by petty criminals. So when they could be, persecuting a MAGA grandmother for praying at an abortion clinic, that gets them a lot bigger headlines than going after a ring of thieves. Now, what that really means for the average Californian, and Dr. A, I'm curious about this, and I'll get you in just a second, is my understanding is almost everything in California stores now is behind locked cases. And given their minimum wage rules and laws, you have fewer employees to actually unlock those cases. So is that an accurate statement of what is going on in California, reference just the basic necessity of shopping?
It depends on your county or city that you reside in. Those stores that have the highest rate of theft went to either locking up behind closed counters or literally leaving the state, like closing a store. We've had a lot of stores close, including Walmart, Target, grocery stores and things in certain areas. And then people cry, oh, we have a food desert. Well, you have a food desert because your people couldn't control themselves. The residents of that area, right? Literally, it's the residents of the area. People don't go into that area to steal. And as, comical as it was to hear you try to represent what's going on in my state, I'll be the first one to criticize California for its failings. And yes, this misdemeanor rule with crimes has been a huge one, but I'm telling you, it's even turning San Francisco more conservative because they went so far. They took it so far that the people who reside are like, that's it, we're done. And I'm going to tell you, Larry, I love the squishies that leave. The people who are proud of this state and want to fight to make it better, stay. The rest, go to Texas.
I get wanting to stay there. I mean, like I said, it is a beautiful state. You will never hear me speak ill of the people or the actual state itself. And you're saying, why do I talk about California? California is exactly what the Democrats want the rest of America to be. We need to understand that. If they get power again, that's what they're going to do. Now, I won't see it because they will have locked me up. I guarantee it. But let's get back to California and the shoplifting losses.
Real quick, though, I was going to say
ma'am.
on that, Larry, it's one thing you guys have repetitively heard me say in the space. California elections have been captured for over 20 years. I'm saying closer to 30, okay? And I have literally pounded my feet in the ground and said that forever. And people are like, well, you elected him. Actually, no, I didn't. And I'm certain that many of my colleagues and neighbors did not. And we had a recall election, and I am certain we were successful in the recall election because even my neighbors, who are mostly liberal, were in favor of the recall. So I know there's been fraudulent. And yes, it was the model at which they then launched to the rest of the nation. So I have been pleading for help to get our elections back under control. And Trump is literally my only hope or view that I have seen in helping us make that happen.
I'm not arguing with you. When you look at the state of their elections, honestly, I think you do need some federal help, because I think the system is so fraudulent and rigged in California that, with the mail-in ballots extending the voting period for weeks, somebody's going in and seeing how many votes they need and then just trucking a few more ballots in, just like they did in 2020. Yeah, you heard me. Go ahead and hit me on that, Jared. All right. Progressive politicians are now, and get this one, they're accusing the tech industry of having extracted wealth from California before leaving for greener pastures of lower tax havens such as Texas and Florida. Now, I would get that if you're digging something out of the ground, but this is intellectual property. So how are you extracting wealth from the state? Novel concept. Okay, and if they can tax you on it, they're certainly going to try and do that. So again, I can foresee a situation where there are, quote, California tax criminals that are residing peacefully in the state of Texas, and, they're going to have to start just not going to California, because California is going to basically say, these people owe us a lot of money, and we're going to arrest them as soon as they come into the state. And so people will just stop going to California. And that's a terrible thing because, again, like I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful state. Now, I've often said progressivism is so stupid that it can't really be, because it's just so unscientific, it's mathematically verifiable as failing, it is really a religion, all right? And so progressivism is just this belief in the Democratic Party that I can't really understand, all right? An example, again, they leave nature alone and set things up to where wildfires will burn down entire neighborhoods. And then they say, rather than their own clear-cutting failures and their failure to control nature and the environment around them, what do they blame? Climate change, and only climate change. It's nothing from for them. But simultaneously, so since climate change is the problem, they're going to impose new rules, making life more difficult for people who want to have natural gas in their homes, or to impose a road diet. Okay, meaning they're going to discourage you from driving your car, a road diet. Boy, doesn't that sound good. Okay, I'm just going to say this. They didn't enumerate
I thought you meant
it.
we had to
Go
eat
ahead.
roadkill.
Well, could be soon. All right, it just, one of the basic rights that is not enumerated in the Bill of Rights, but I think it's because our founding fathers could never envision, something like this, is the right to travel. You as an American have a right to leave your home and go other places without being taxed to death. Now, I don't know about California, but I'm telling you right now in Texas, toll roads are absolutely eating our lunch. Okay, I cannot go east of my home. I cannot go south of my home. And in one particular case, I cannot go west of my home without getting on a toll road. All right, it would probably take me about twice the amount of time if I avoided all the toll roads. So they make it to where I have to pay an additional tax. So again, the right to travel should never be restricted. And these clowns with their road diets and their mileage taxes. Oh, and do you know who else wanted a mileage tax on Texans? My opponent. Anyway, I digress. Now, because of the rise of the tech industry, California has actually been, seeing an unprecedented rise in wealth, not seen since the Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan era. All right, the state's tax take has massively increased over the past 2 decades, all right, with the percentage of income tax revenues actually raising as well. You mentioned San Francisco, Dr. A. Did you know that there are more per capita billionaires in San Francisco than in any other city in America? I would have thought that would have been New York, but it's not. All right, so let's talk about why California will completely self-destruct. And Dr. A, feel free to interrupt at any point in time and tell me that I am dead wrong. The first reason I think that California is going to self-destruct is that progressive ideology is intractable. It does not yield to the laws of economics. It does not yield to the laws of science. All right. It does not yield to the laws of mathematics. All right. They are feeded, the politicians in California, by the mainstream media. All right. And by the left-wing education institutions. And the voters don't seem to want any alternatives yet. Is that true? That last little bullet. The voters don't seem to want any alternatives.
No, I think people are fried. But I told you, we haven't had the ability to use a ballot to make a change in 30 years. We keep thinking, I'm going to go vote. So I think there's voter apathy because we know that using that ballot has not been fruitful.
Awesome. All right, again, so if you can't use the ballot, when any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is their right to alter or abolish it. Now, again, let's try and do this peacefully. All right, the second reason is that California voters are drawn to progressive Democrats no matter what disasters these politicians might inflict. I mean, the fact that Gavin Newsom got elected again and again tells me everything I kind of need to know. The highly educated voters, all right, do not support progressive Democrats on just economic issues, but they also support them on highly contentious social issues. And again, Dr. A, you live there, has there been a pro-MAGA rally or a pro-ICE rally anywhere in California?
Oh, absolutely. All over the state, even in the liberal Bay Area, there were both. There was anti-ICE, there was pro-MAGA, San Diego, Huntington Beach, all over the state, yes.
Well, San Diego, again, that's a different little. As a matter of fact, I'd like Texas to acquire San Diego. We'll trade you Austin. It's a good deal for us.
Well, just to be clear, they're trying to take San Diego. There's been a fight for San Diego, and I know Rigo's in listening mode right now, but he is closer to what's been happening in LA and San Diego if he wants to chime in.
Well, I mean, we've got
I love his thought.
Camp Pendleton, we've got Miramar, we've got, obviously Coronado Beach. I mean, there are a ton of great things in San Diego. I believe there's big shipyards there. So again, yes, I'll trade you. You guys can have Austin and the liberals there, the pot-smoking liberals, and I'll take San Diego, the Navy SEALs, and Marine Corps Camp Pendleton. Deal? No? Dr. A, what do you think?
No, sir. It's your crap that got sent here back in the 60s that we're still dealing with. So,
All right. Now, the third reason I don't believe that things are going to change in California is that the progressive government sets its own set of monopoly rents. Now, that's an interesting term. And what I think they were politely trying to say is they bribe enough people, all right, that are distributed across the state to maintain control, namely the state employees and the bureaucracy, or shall we say the California deep state. Go ahead, Rigo.
Hey, thank you, Colonel. How you doing? I hope you're having a great day.
I am.
One of the things that's happening here in California is you have a split that's occurring in Southern California. It's evident that a lot of Venezuelans came here with Trump freeing Venezuela and taking care of that. You've had a mass amount of them, and Cuban Americans traditionally vote Republican, GOP side. So you have a split. What they're doing is they're indoctrinating these students and the people around here. There have been rallies, but people are generally quiet because we're in a, like you say, a supermajority blue state where they get brainwashed real easy. It's a step-by-step basis for us to actually have pushback. Huntington Beach is one of our strongholds for the GOP. We also have Riverside and San Bernardino counties, which flipped red this last election and have a lot of people walking around with "Make America Great." But if you step foot in LA County, you're in their den. It's crazy. They won't have, you won't be able to like voice your free speech because someone's going to come up, cause problems, you name it. You have to go to a safe area, and it's sad to see that we can't use our First Amendment freedom of expression or have pro-ICE rallies or speak positively about the Trump administration. This is something that's seen, but little by little, this is why they did the redistricting in California. A lot of people don't remember that we flipped 11 counties red this last election. It was huge, and the Democrats panicked. So they came out with this, oh, we're going to fight Trump. No, what they're doing is they're trying to hold on to their supermajority. They're trying to hold on to what they had. And if the redistricting gets done and it goes sour for them, I'm going to be clapping to the high heavens when that happens.
Rigo, real quick, Larry, just so you know, he's talking about Prop 50 that Gavin pushed through. And we had an election committee, a redistricting committee that was nonpartisan. They voted on any changes, and Gavin went, nope, out with y'all, I'm doing it. And the citizens don't support what he did, and it's going to the Supreme Court.
Good. Now, one of the things that, as a political candidate that you hear all the time is, hey, what position do you have on this? And do you think the state ought to do something about this? And I'm going to tell you, you got to kind of catch yourself, because your first thought should be, should the state even be handling this issue? All right? Shouldn't the county be doing this or the city? I'll give you a perfect example. The state banned cell phones in schools, high schools, for Texas students. No, the counties, the cities, the school boards, the parents, they should be doing that. And I talked to a lady that was furious with the representative because he actually wrote this legislation. So again, just because you can do something doesn't mean you ought to, all right? We need to adopt or readopt the adage that the government that governs best governs least. And I add something to it. The government that is closest to the people governs better than one that is farther away. So yeah, if we can get out of the way and let the cities and counties handle something, then we absolutely should do that. So that's, again, just that's how I think as a potential legislator is, should the state be doing it in the first place? And if the answer is no, then don't spend the money on it. What a novel concept. Maybe we could cut taxes. All right. Now, as a military guy, I'm always, interested in, adjustments in command and control. And we have seen throughout history a lot of, RMAs, revolutions in military affairs. Okay, the machine gun was a revolution in military affairs. The tank was a revolution in military affairs. The ability to integrate air power in close proximity to the front is a revolution in military affairs. The aircraft carrier as opposed to the battleship is one. We have talked about drones in the Ukraine and other places right now are an RMA, and now we see another one occurring at the same time. All right. Ukraine has become a proving ground for 2030s warfare, where Western weaponry, Russian weaponry, and anyone else's next-generation weaponry collide on a modern battlefield, kind of providing a sneak peek of what conflict is going to look like. All right, so what we're seeing now is weaponized artificial intelligence, on-the-ground robots, and yes, Russian soldiers actually surrendered to a robot the other day, swarms of drones, and automated kill chains with humanoid robo-killers that could enter field testing as early as this year. There is a group called MITRE, and I remember seeing contracts for both a humanoid and a feline Terminator, I want to say somewhere in the late teens. All right, and I can tell you that when I worked for a defense company on what is called UMT, unmanned teaming, meaning if I've got a swarm of bees, okay, that I've shot into the troposphere that are slowly descending on a geographic region, well, if those bees see a person holding a rifle or, a tank or something else, they talk to each other. That way they don't all target the same person. Now we're seeing that added to AI. So we are literally seeing what's called the compression of the kill chain. Now, a note on that. So, again, I'm a dinosaur. When I flew the greatest fighter ever invented, all right, we had to use things like radios, and there were people in the loop, all right? Let's go back even further. I didn't even have an integrated GPS. Now, the airplanes I flew had an inertial navigation system, but it drifted so bad that you learn not to trust it. So it was literally the 15-pound computer, well, actually probably about a 5-pound computer in my case, sitting on top of my neck, reading a map, looking at the ground, and flying my airplane to get it in the right spot. Now, let's say I saw a target. I then had to plot that on the map, pass the coordinates, back up the chain of command, all right, or vice versa, but it was a process that took a lot of time. Now, given the GWOT, Global War on Terror, we started automating that process. My sensors started moving to coordinates that were provided there, and the guys on the ground had a TV to where they could actually see where my targeting pod was looking. All right, then we sped up the kill chain by using things like a chat program to where the people that could make the decisions to actually prosecute a target were in the room immediately and with immediate communications to the front line. All right, what's happening now is this kill chain, which does take a little bit of time, all right, is becoming increasingly based on decision-making from artificial intelligence, and humans are being pushed out of the systems. So we're seeing AI having the ability to meld weapon systems and move them to locations faster than armies' commanders can think. All right, they said, all right, this is the French, and again, so, trying to teach their AI to march backwards and drop their guns? I mean, it's the French. All right, so you need to be able to collect information, to process information, to write and disseminate your order faster than your opponent. Yes, okay. Again, for those of you that don't know, John Boyd, the inventor of the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, all right, which was a business cycle, all right, was also a fighter pilot, and he invented what is called fast-transient warfare. That is the warfare of the United States, combined with logistics and melded with another guy named John Warden's 5 concentric rings. So this is how we are breaking our opponent to pieces. If we are playing a game of chess, and I can move my pieces 5 times before you move yours once, I win every single time. That is the goal of fast-transient warfare. There is a whole great brief on it, all right, by Colonel John Boyd. All right, and that is why I will tell you point blank, when it comes to warfare, I am an absolute disciple of John Boyd. He is just a genius, a pure and utter genius. And the reason we have the F-15 and the F-16 are because of the groups that he chaired inside the Pentagon, because those are fast transient aircraft. Okay, one of the tools that fighter pilots study, and I don't know how classified it is, came from John Boyd's brain. It told me what and how I needed to fight every other enemy weapon system. This guy was a gift to the American people, and our technological supremacy in the military field is due to that brain on that one man. It was awesome. He's definitely worth studying if you like to study these things at all. Now, what they're saying is, all right, the intelligence kill web is what the kill chain is changing from. All right, the United States Army's 4th Infantry Division in Colorado recently ran testing where an AI lattice detected, labeled, assessed targets, tied it to C2, command and control, prototype, led by Andrew Reel, all right, with software contributions from both Microsoft and Palantir. And I love the fact that Andrew Reel and Palantir stem from The Lord of the Rings. So, again, inner geekery there. But the United States Air Force also ran what are called dash experiments, where AI planners reportedly became far faster than human officers, and in newer results, materially more accurate on tactical viability through earlier iterations made subtle errors. Now, again, I can tell you, having been in a planning cell, it is, and again, I'm not going to say how long, but it is a process. And the process could be done by a computer like that, and it took days in some cases and hours and minutes in others. Depends on the situation. The takeaway here, the real takeaway, is that weaponized AI, robots, all right, and other advanced systems, including humanoid robots, Terminators, are going to probably be on the battlefield in Eastern Europe quickly, all right, and they will offer us a glimpse of what 2030's conflict will actually be like, all right. Skynet is actually coming into existence, and I know I've said this before, but the name of the network that we move our predator feed around the globe on is actually Skynet. And yes, it was a joke, but honestly, it's kind of getting there. So what happens when we remove the man in the loop? You know, do the machines decide that they've had enough of our meddling? You know, we'll talk about that, I guess, in a little bit. But, you know, we are seeing this, you know, brand new dawn. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there was a Ukrainian drone that actually, they called it the Dragon for obvious reasons, but it was literally spewing fire down on the Russian trenches. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy world that we live in right now. All right, I've already said that I did not watch the Super Bowl, so I'm going to yield to Dr. A for a second to tell us about, are we talking Food Tyson or Mike Tyson and Maha?
That's funny. We're talking Mike Tyson, so Maha and the Tyson Super Bowl ad. Maha launched a Super Bowl ad featuring former heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson. In the ad, he encouraged Americans to eat real food and end the consumption of unhealthy processed foods. Secretary Kennedy appeared on Fox News prior to the Super Bowl and discussed the importance of the public campaign to eat real food in accordance with the new federal dietary guidelines. For those of you who don't know, what are we talking about with real food? Did it grow in the ground? Was it picked from a tree that was growing from the ground, or did it eat food from the ground, right? Not made in a factory. Secretary Kennedy commented that the ad was extraordinary and powerful. Quote, the most important ad in Super Bowl history because it's a crisis that is existential for us. 77% of our kids cannot qualify for military service. That means they wouldn't be able to pass basic. Their obesity is off the charts. 38% of American teens are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and the cost to our country is ruinous. He says, continuing, when my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease in this country. Now we spend $4.3 trillion a year, and it's growing faster than anything in the budget, and it's going to bankrupt us. It's a spiritual warfare because this is a spiritual malaise. So this affects mental health, despite what the New York Times says. There are 75 years of peer-reviewed science that show that improving your health is going to improve even the symptoms of schizophrenia, ADHD, bipolar disorder, and more. When you give people in prisons real foods, the violence goes down by 40%. The use of restraints goes down by 75%. The food is affecting everything we do. This is warfare. If a foreign enemy or adversary did this to our country, poisoned them at mass scale, we'd consider it an act of war. And we are poisoning our children at scale at a cellular level, and it needs to stop. And the government, you know, the Trump administration, does not believe in being a nanny state. It's not going to tell you, you can't buy this and you can't eat. If you want to buy donuts, you should be able to do that. We live in America. Americans have to be the CEO of their own health. I've said that for decades. They have to take control of it. And we're equipping them with the tools to do that. We're telling them what the science says. We're telling them what kind of food they should be eating. It's up to everybody to do that. And it's really going to be a civics project for our country. Prior to the game, the HHS published a list of real food recipes that could be enjoyed even on Super Bowl Sunday. And speaking earlier on Fox News, Tyson said that the Trump administration is the first in his lifetime to address the chronic disease and obesity epidemic. That's what I'm here for.
All right, so again, I'm seeing that they published this list of real food recipes. I haven't actively sought it out again, and I'm telling you this because I'm running a political campaign. Most people are not going to go and seek something like that. You have to put it in front of their eyes. All right, again, And realistically, you got to put it in front of their eyes 3 times before they actually see it and believe what you're saying. All right. So, that's where is this? I mean, where is it published, Dr. A? Is it on the HHS website?
It's a great, great question, Larry. And one of the things that I have been politely critiquing along the way, and I love everything that RFK is doing since he's been there, so I'm just going to say that straight. The things that I've been critiquing, we have lied to adult Americans for 50 years about nutrition, straight out lied. So when I have seniors as patients, it's hard because I have to first convince them that the food that they're eating is not the food they grew up on. That's the first conversation. And they're like, I don't understand. It's still, carrots with this, top on it. And, how is it not the same food? So we have to go through that whole conversation. My point is, we have so much educating to do, starting with the adults. You can talk to the kids in school, and they're focusing on changing the education that students receive, just like most of us received education of some type around nutrition. And at least we were, if there were school lunches and things, all of that needs to change. But it also has to change at home. And that's why I wrote a book 14 years ago about how parents need to start at home with their children and then help them branch out to understanding what they should be eating at schools and with their friends, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, Larry, we have to put this much more in front of the adults.
It's interesting you say that. Right now we have a real race between 2 men for the agricultural commissioner here in Texas, and I would say probably the most important job the agricultural commissioner in Texas does, again, is to select the food that goes into Texas schools. And so, that's. I'm looking at that race and weighing, the things that I'm hearing about healthy food and, weighing what the incumbent's done and the challenger as well. So, I do think it's important that we get this out, but I don't feel like they're doing a good enough job marketing it. I actually absolutely agree with the Trump administration. If I want to eat a vanilla milkshake, I should be able to get one the way I want, but I should know what it's doing to my health. And so, what I really, really want out of them is nothing they know is going to kill me, nothing purely carcinogenic, and then just tell me what's in it. Tell me the truth. Truth in labeling, truth in packaging, and let me select how I'm going to eat. If I want to die in 5 years because of what I eat, so be it. If I want to try and live to be 100, so be it. Again, I'm an American and I have some freedoms. And all I could think of when you were talking about donuts was Homer Simpson, donuts, the thing he used to do. All right, so Southern, I told you at the beginning, this Epstein thing makes me nauseous. It's one of these evergreen topics. Can you just talk me off the ledge here in not believing that my entire government is run by cannibal pedophiles? I mean,
I cannot do that one. I can't give you the list of what we've discovered so far.
Please, ma'am.
And what we've already done. So Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, pleads fifth during her 1-hour deposition in the House committee this morning. Just so you guys know, she had filed a habeas corpus petition pro se on December 17th of 2025 to have her sentence set aside. So I knew she was going to plead the fifth this morning. So we so far have done Steven Pinker. He is a Harvard professor and experimental cognitive psychologist. He was the man that was on the plane on the video that was being filmed by a young lady where she says something like, "Where are you taking us?" In the files over 400 times, now known to have assisted in Epstein's defense in his 2008 case. Okay, and so next there's Dr. Mark Tramo. He's professor at UCLA, gave Epstein info on how to make a baby suck a pacifier more vigorously. The UCLA has now taken him off their website.
Wow.
We don't know what that means yet. So next, there's Leslie Groff. She is the known assistant and possible co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein. Tons of emails now reveal her twin sister Ashley and brother-in-law were in contact with who we have no idea since that's all been redacted. John Luke Bernal, known co-conspirator through his modeling agency MC2, first revealed during the Maxwell drop, as seen in 2022 in France while awaiting trial. Then there's I'm going to say his name completely wrong, so bear with me. Nathy Mitois. He was the South African ambassador to the Republic of France. Video reveals him to be on a private plane with two redacted ladies. Epstein in 2025, Hyatt Regency Paris Hotel. Reminder that Hyatt Hotel's executive chairman, Thomas Pritzker, was named in the first strap with Maxwell as an offender, I'll put it that way. Hyatt sold the Paris Hotel to Qatar Holdings before his death. And that's it. That's all we revealed so far. We have many, many more names this week.
No.
And Southern, real quick, hasn't the European royals been doing a little bit of squishy sideways moving?
They have, as of so far. France is also involved in doing their own investigations. As you guys know, like Prince Andrew is no longer a prince. He had all of his titles and money stricken away from him.
And he asked to move out of the royal properties just this past week?
Yes, but he will still live on one of his brother's properties, from my understanding. So he'll live under, I don't know how to put it. Like, basically, he'll be financed from his brother only. He won't receive any funds from the government itself.
All right,
I guess
so
is a nice way to put it.
things that have penetrated my bubble of working and trying to actively avoid this is a lot of talk about dentistry. I'm assuming that is code name for something. Do we know what it's a code name for?
Code name for dentistry?
Yeah, what I'm told is like dentistry or dentist chair is mentioned over 2,000 times in these Epstein things. Is that?
I know that there is one dentist that is involved. I'm not going to reveal his name just yet because we have some more digging in on him. But he is, because he's still alive, based in St. Thomas itself.
All right. And to date, Southern, other than Epstein and Maxwell, how many arrests have occurred?
In the U.S., 0, except for them two.
All right, so 0 arrests, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the director of the FBI come in front of Congress and say that if we had any evidence, we would absolutely bring it to prosecution, correct?
That is what he said, and then they turned around and said that after the most recent release, which was over 3 million files, he said that they did not have any known cases coming out of this information.
All right, but isn't there sworn testimony from over 40 of the young women that were trafficked on that island?
Correct. I don't know the exact number. But
No, fair enough. So I have sworn testimony from victims. I have email evidence. I have video evidence. And our FBI cannot make one arrest. And you guys see why I tell you I have 0 faith in that organization, and it needs to be burned to the ground without any harm of anyone in there other than their termination from employment. Again, this is, having had an FBI agent lie on the stand, I cannot get past that. I know who they are as an organization now. And we just saw our director, the guy that wrote Government Gangsters, saying that there is no criminal activity on Epstein Island, and they're wondering why we can't get past this. Again, this cuts to the very heart of being an American. I have to have a say in my government, and I have to believe that my justice system is right and true, and that truth will out eventually, as it did for the January the 6th political prisoners. But truth is not winning out here. We are seeing a cover-up from our most powerful legal institutions that is protecting pedophiles and potentially much, much worse. All right, we're going to have to stop this here pretty quick, I know, because I've got some other things to do. But Southern, you guys are staying on top of this, right? Who do we need to follow, you or, in your space to talk about this? Or is Sarah staying on top of this? I mean, who... And Dr. A, I know you guys are paying a lot more attention than I am. Who is my go-to source for what I'm going to say the latest information that has probably the highest probability of being accurate?
Southern.
Yes. So I actually work with a team. I actually work with Sarah, and then there's Lone Wolf. Between the three of us, we've been digging in deep to every name that we found and then release what is relevant.
Okay.
There's a lot of emails in there that aren't. And then, of course, there's another team that we work with, which is Sippy and Jinx, and then they release their own information. We're trying to make sure that between the five of us, we're not overlapping information to not just kind of just keep the feed.
Well, thank you, and God bless you and your team for trying to do something for these young women that have been abused so badly. The last thing I'm going to say is I've said often that all politics are local, and we had another example of that in my city right now. There is a plan to build another mosque, and it gets really interesting, and my guest that I had on the show last week, Kaylee Campbell, piggybacked on some information that Sarah Fields put out about a pay-for-play scheme where Muslims voted for our city councilman, or councilwoman in this case, and as a result, the quid pro quo is that they were going to get their new mosque approved. There is a planning and zoning committee meeting tomorrow night that I've encouraged lots of people to show up for. I will be at Prestonwood Church, as I already said. So I had a previous commitment, or I would be there. But you have got to pay attention to your city councils. You have got to get conservative Republicans elected to city councils and school boards. So that's all I'm going to say on that particular subject until we get a little bit more information. But I want to thank all of you for joining me. Dr. A, go ahead with your last words, and then I'll come to you, Southern, and then I'll wrap up with the quotes.
Sure. I just wanted to say, Larry, I don't know if you can see hands, but Lion 4 has a hand raised, and Rigo did, and then he put it down. So I don't know whether his point was addressed. And just wanted to give you that heads up. And thank you for a great show.
I apologize for not seeing those. Southern, go ahead with your last words, and then I'll come to those two guys.
So just on what you were just talking about, Larry, just so you know, there was a permit that was already approved. I'm not going to give you the date because I forgot it. It's in Sarah's post. And that building already you can already see it on Google Maps.
Yeah, but my understanding is that was approved for a medical center that they're changing. But anyway, you're probably right. All right, go ahead, Lion 4.
Thank you, Larry. I'm coming into your space for the first time. I think I'm seeing a group of a number of people from Punchbowl that I was the first time on. So I originally, when I first came to the U.S. 30 years ago, I went to North Texas, around Dallas area. I went to UTD, and I have a large family members there. I think many of them are in District 106.
Yes, sir.
And I'm in Georgia now, and the reason I came here is because of work. I've always wanted to come back, never had that opportunity. Only go back during the holidays. But that's not the reason why I raised my hand. I raised my hand because you said something about Benito and the Super Bowl halftime show, and that was filth. And I didn't know Benito until a few days ago. My kids who are teenagers in high school are the ones who actually told me about him, and I watched. And I thought the theme of the Super Bowl show was unity, love, and cultural pride, emphasizing on togetherness against hate. So that's how I understood, because I speak Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I did enjoy it, and that's how they explained to me. Now, I'm trying to understand what you found, or maybe someone else who is in this space can tell me what was filth. Is it just that because it was said in Spanish that was wrong? Because we can ask. You can say it in American. Maybe. Let me finish, sir. Yep. I'm gonna. You have your own district that you're trying to represent has a large minority population.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to this kind of spaces and say things like this, and I'm going to give everybody who comes from the district. From your district, I'm going to ask them to follow you, because I think this is the second time I have come to your space. This is the only time I've spoken, and I am beginning to get concerned, sir. So can you explain to me what was the filth? Because then I have to take it up with my children, because that's not what they told me in explaining to me.
Sir, I didn't actually watch the show. Southern did, but Southern, actually, I don't know if you did. Southern, could you go ahead and explain this?
And
So,
real
Ryan, I
quick,
would suggest that you go actually listen to his lyrics and look at his lyrics since you don't speak Spanish. There's nothing nice about him.
Yep.
When we're saying that it's filth, there were a lot of cultural undertones in it that were actually very racist when it comes to the Hispanic community. That's why they themselves did not appreciate what he said or how it was presented.
Now, sir, again, I hear what you're saying. Wait, we got to wrap up
Correct.
because we've got a hard stop at 12:15. So,
and
Dr.
I'll
A,
just put in real quick, Larry, in the Purple Pill, Joe Kerr shared with our space the translation
Okay.
of the lyrics that he's saying.
All
And
right.
Lion, if you heard Larry explain in the beginning of our space, had those been said in English on our station, it would have been there would have been fines. It would have been pulled off the air. You're not allowed to speak those words on our public airwaves. Just because you say it in Spanish doesn't make it right.
Absolutely. And Lion, you're welcome to
appreciate
listen to the space. You
No,
know,
I
you'll
appreciate that.
catch some. Hold on, buddy. I'm sorry that I got to do this for a second, but you're catching me right at the end of the show, and I got to wrap up. But there is nothing. We do not condone any racism here. It is filth, pure and simple. I did read those lyrics this morning, and that's why I said it is on the basis of his own words out of his own mouth. And I haven't even addressed the dancing that I'm told was very harmful and advocating a lifestyle that I do not feel is good for the United States. So I'll leave it at there. I get that you're concerned. I was in an Indian church yesterday praying with my Christian brothers and sisters and asking for their vote. And I'm very aware of the large minority population in my district. Let's wrap up with a quote like we always do. All right, it is from Stephen Hawking, who is a genius. And he says, "Success in creating AI would be the biggest event in human history. Unfortunately, it might also be the last unless we learn how to avoid the risk." I'm going to say thank you to everyone, and I promise you that I didn't mean to cut you short there, sir. I see that you're gone, but you're welcome back any time, and we can talk about this in more detail. God bless all of you. Follow Southern for all of our information, everything and nothing at 10 p.m. and the Punch Bowl at 8 a.m. Good stuff. All right, I'll talk to you.